it's Jessii Vee. How you doing? Wow, my intro's been the same for like 4 or 5 years, right? What if one day I was just like, yo, it's Jessii, let's get started. No, I feel like I could never change my intro. Anyways, guys, today we are going to be talking about some very strange Victorian traditions. So these are either rules or just things that people did way back in the day that will blow your mind. Some of these things are bizarre, some are creepy, some are sad, and some are just plain gross, to be honest. And it just shows you how much the world has changed. So we're gonna get into all that in just 2 seconds, but before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you want to win this Christmassy, sparkly, light background behind me, all you have to do is be subscribed to this channel, so my Jessii Vee channel, have your notification bell on, and then head over to my Instagram page, follow me there, and DM me the Christmas tree emoji. Once you do those things, you will be entered to win this backdrop, and I will be announcing that either end of December or first week of January. Okay, so let's get into the very first weird tradition. So there were all kinds of different Victorian hairstyles back then. They usually comprised of women putting their hair up off of their faces. You rarely saw their hair just down when they were out in public. But there was something creepy that they would do with the hairpins they put in their hair. Hair jewelry was extremely popular back in the Victorian era. Like, they would literally wear other people's hair on a clip. Now, I mean, that's not so bad, because if you really think about it, even nowadays in the modern times, people wear real hair extensions. That's kind of similar, right? The stranger part is that sometimes when a family member passed away, they would take a part of that family member's hair, braid it, and put it into their hair clip so they can wear it on their head always. Now, I'm not one to judge what you do after a family member has passed, because obviously that's a very personal thing. I just don't know how I feel about it personally. And there's so many kind of eerie pictures if you go on Google and look at all of the real hairpins that have been found over time. Some have been sold at garage sales, thrift stores, museums. They've been found in old abandoned houses. So if you don't know who the hair belongs to, it's a little bit eerie. The next thing they had back in the day were mourning dolls. Now, children having dolls is not a weird thing. I mean, children have owned dolls for hundreds and hundreds of years. Think about all the doll advertising even today. But in the Victorian era, there was another use for dolls. Because of the fact that medicine was way less advanced, more people got sick and more people died younger in life, especially children who don't have a very great immune system. So when a very rich family lost a child, it was customary for them to have what's called a mourning doll. This doll would have to look exactly like the child they had lost. They would often be made of wax, and sometimes the hair would be taken straight from the child and put onto the doll to add an extra level of authenticity. Once these dolls were made, they would usually be placed in a crib inside of the house, and every single day they had to be cared for. Their clothes had to be changed. They had to have food placed in front of them as if they could actually eat it. They had to be treated like a real life child. And this supposedly helped the family cope with their loss. What's so weird is that there's actually a TV series coming out like in real life very soon called Servant, and that show is just like what happened back in the Victorian era. I'm pretty sure the two main characters lose a child, so they get a doll to look like their child that they actually take care of. It looks like a really interesting yet creepy show. I'm not sponsored by them, but I might watch it. Next, we have professional mourners. So like I said before, the mortality rate of people was really high because medicine was not advanced. So there were funerals all the time, unfortunately. So when someone passed away and they didn't have enough people attending their funeral, they would hire professional mourners, so AKA actors, to act like they're crying and sad to fill up the rest of the funeral home. So it's kind of like hiring extras to come stand stand in the background and fill space. I find that very strange, but apparently it's been a custom for hundreds of years. I don't really know if they do that anymore. I've never seen professional mourners. They could have been around and they're just really, really good actors. I don't know. I just find it strange that that was actually a career you can choose. Like, imagine being in class and the teacher's like, so Jessii, what do you want to be when you grow up? Definitely a professional mourner. I'm really good at crying. I cry all the time actually at home, you don't even know. But like I said, I'm not judging. Everyone handles someone passing away differently, and that's just a personal choice. I'm just talking about our history here. So since we're on the subject of funerals, I realize this video is really dark, like darker than I intended. I'm so sorry. Mourning in the Victoria era was a very big deal. They even had manuals to give out to people who lost a loved one that would instruct you on how long you were supposed to mourn. Imagine having a booklet like that nowadays. Like, you definitely cannot leave your house for 3 years. Like, it tells you exactly what you can and can't do while you're trying to recover from this loss. The manual would say it was very important that people saw that you're in mourning for the entire period of time. This involved wearing all black, and depending on who the family member was, you would have to retreat from society until the period was over. So you basically have to completely isolate yourself during that time. For example, if an upper class woman's husband passed away, she would have to be in all black and mourning for up to 4 years. By the way, if anyone doesn't know what mourning means, it means a time that you're grieving the death of somebody. Some women even are expected to wear the color black for the rest of their lives. And in addition to all of these crazy strict rules, women are not allowed to attend any social events for an entire year, no matter what. So I'm really glad those rules don't apply anymore. At least I don't think so. Maybe in some places around the world. I hope not. The next thing that was a bit strange that they did back in the Victorian era was they predicted their future spouse using a mirror. Back during this time, people were very superstitious, and one of those things was about mirrors. One of them was that if a young lady looked into a mirror on Halloween night, she would see the man she was gonna marry. And when you hear that nowadays in modern times, it sounds really silly, but these women took this extremely seriously. So on Halloween night, they would go to their mirror and be like, please, please, show me my future Prince Charming. Some women claimed it actually worked, and they did see their future husband. Also, Halloween is known to be the night when the barrier between the living and the dead is the weakest. So people would use this to their advantage, maybe see loved ones that have passed away, or seen the ghostly image of their future husband. So, interesting. Another thing they did with mirrors is they covered them. Any mirror in their house, they would completely just put a blanket over it. Throughout history, mirrors were constantly being attached to stories about spirits coming through the glass, or showing the person who looked into it a secret truth about themselves. Basically, if someone passed away in their home, they would have to go around the entire house and cover all the mirrors. The reason they did this is because there was this superstition that they could walk by a mirror and see the ghost of their loved one in the mirror reflection. And if that happened, the thought was that the spirit would be forever trapped inside the mirror and never be able to find peace. This is obviously not a common practice anymore, but it was taken very seriously back then. And the last bizarre thing we're gonna talk about are cemetery picnics. With fewer parks, gardens, and museums to choose from, many people in the Victorian era thought they could have a good time in graveyards. So there weren't enough parks to seat everybody, apparently, and there was a ton of space in all of the graveyards. There were beautiful grass, trees, flowers. So people just thought, hey, if I can't get a seat at the park, I'll go sit in the cemetery. I mean, I feel like I would low-key love to do that because I'm just strange. The local cemetery was the closest thing they had to a park, and groups would pack lunches and have picnics among the tombstones. Cemeteries became such heavily trafficked destinations that guidebooks were distributed to visitors at some of the most famous locations, like Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn or Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge. They literally had travel booklets that had all the cemeteries, and it said like, have lunch here, beautiful location. So yeah, My question to you, would you ever have a picnic in a cemetery? I feel like I might. I don't know. Is that even respectful? Anyways, guys, those are all of the stranger things they did back in the Victorian era. Once again, I'm not judging people's way of life. It's just strange that it's changed so much. So it's hard for us to really understand and put our minds back into their mindsets. But it is a very large part of our history, so it is okay to talk about. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!